Hi there, and welcome to Yearly Reviews, a show where I go through all the games that I played through the year of 2020 1 week at a time. So without further ado, let's see what we're reviewing this week. Whenever a game gets popular, the normal course of action is for that game to receive a sequel, as is the case with any other media. Now, some sequels are veritable garbage fires, like say Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts or Duke Nukem Forever, but it's actually pretty more likely that the game will be as good or better than the original. Some of my favourite sequels being Hotline Miami 2, Virtue's Last Reward, Bioshock Infinite, Far Cry 3, Beholder 2, and many more. One game that received the sequel treatment was Outlast, and deservedly so, as in my opinion, it's one of the most horrifying games I've ever played. The problem is, how can you improve on Outlast? Its story, its presentation, and most importantly, its horror have to be refined in the sequel. Well, Outlast 2 does something with it. The game begins with a couple riding in a helicopter above the Arizona clouds. These are Blake Langerman. Oh hey, I actually got the last name of an Outlast protagonist right this time. And his wife Flynn, who works as an investigative journalist with Blake as her cameraman. Flynn is investigating a story about the murder of a pregnant woman known only as Jane Doe, but before they have a chance to land safely, the helicopter crashes. Blake wakes up to find the helicopter's pilot skinned alive and his wife missing and ventures to find help. However, he instead finds the main source of this game's horror. Cultists, who are dead set on finding Blake for devious purposes. But in between moments of horror and even more horror, Blake has flashbacks to a traumatic memory from his childhood. Starting off, Outlast 2 improves on the story of the original, even though it doesn't have any links to the original game. The crazy cultist enemies you have to hide away from work well as any other enemy, and I think there's some more memorable moments, for better or for worse. I think the greatest refinement for this game from the original was its visuals and graphics, which really enhanced the horror value when you come face to face with the enemies pursuing you. Another thing I appreciate about Outlast 2 was how batshit insane it was. Like, the whole premise is running away from crazy Christian cultists in Arizona who think your wife will bring the Antichrist, so you help your wife give birth at the end before the cult's leader kills himself and the world fucking ends before your eyes. That is just fucking mental. It's the most entertaining bit about the game, but it's also kind of the worst bit about it. And I think the cardinal sin of this game, get it because of cults, is its horror. While the original Outlast had its horror rely on enemies pursuing you and mostly that, Outlast 2 is more so focused on horror, but more of shock value. Let's say for example the whole subplot our main character Blake has, and also turn away for like 40 seconds if you're bothered by these things. So, our main character went to a Catholic school when he was younger and was friends with a young girl named Jessica, who after messing around in the school is reprimanded by a priest. And by reprimand, I mean rape and then thrown down the stairs in order to kill her. No, I'm not making that up. I mean, the murder bit is in the actual game, the rape isn't, but there is audio of it in the game's files. But despite how repugnant that is, the game doesn't really handle it very well, as the flashback scenes felt a bit obnoxious, and not just because of the shock value, but because they just don't work in between the moments of running away from crazy cultists. I mean, I have nothing against shock value, and hell, even the original Outlast did it, but that was used sparingly. Outlast 2 is kind of like an edgy teenager in high school constantly spelling the N-word and telling the Year 7s to kill themselves. Okay, that's actually a crap analogy. Sorry to get wrapped up in this, but just so you know, these aspects do not mean that Outlast 2 is a bad game, far from it. The gameplay is pretty good, it looks horrifying, which I feel is the intent, and mechanically, it's not the worst game I ever played. However, while it tries to be as horrifying as the original game, most of the horror aside from the gameplay just ends up devolving into shock value in my personal opinion. While it isn't as good as the original, it's had its moments every so often, and I'm looking forward to the Outlast trials next year. So, a good job, Red Barrels, I guess? Hey folks, thanks for sticking to the end of this review. If you like what you saw here, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. I really appreciate you guys making comments on these videos. They make up my day and I read every single one of them. If you like what you saw here, feel free to look at the newest review and look at the latest review. And if you want to watch more, feel free to hit that bell so you know when a new review drops. See ya, and thanks for watching.